I'm a professional stand-in bride. My first client was an heiress from Eastbrook, and I signed a 3-year contract with her. She would chase her one true love, and I would marry the old money prince in her place. The prince tormented me every chance he got, sneering that I was nothing but an obedient little bitch. The day the contract expired, I dragged my suitcase out without a backward glance. He snarled through the phone, "Sophie, what the hell did I ever mean to you? One Sophie, an obedient little bitch. Tell her to jump and she asks how high." The low, lazy voice cut through the karaoke din without bothering to hide its mockery. My hand froze on the door handle. Ice crawled up from my soles. Laughter exploded inside. Cameron was still holding court. "Watch this. 30 seconds and she'll push that door open with her stone-cold face and politely invite me home. Lucky you, Sterling. Show someone who cares. Get lost. She's a stand-in, nothing more. She only dares throw her weight around because she's hiding behind my mother's name." I drew a slow breath and let it out just as slowly. As usual, Cameron was right. I had come at Margaret's bidding, my nominal mother-in-law, to fetch the husband who had spent half a year decorating tabloid headlines. Margaret's exasperated lecture still rang in my ears. "Morgan, what man stays out all night 6 months into his marriage? You married in Serena's place, so at least keep up appearances. Tonight, you will drag Andrew home." Casey, my employer, was the real bride. In our line of work, both spouses have to know and approve the contract. Because this was my first job and I hadn't dotted every I, I only discovered after the wedding that the Sterlings had never been informed. There was nothing left to do. The genuine bride had already flown overseas with her starving artist boyfriend. I hesitated, then pushed the door. The private room fell silent except for the pulsing backup track. I walked straight to Cameron. Old money pedigree, front row center. He lounged on the sofa, young, unfairly handsome, wrapped in lazy arrogance. When those narrow phoenix eyes lifted, they looked dangerous enough to drown in. The veteran who'd inducted me into stand-in work once sighed that I was lucky she had done 3 jobs, all aging lechers who tried to grope her. Cameron, whatever his character, was the ceiling in looks, status, and net worth. Sometimes I wanted to crack Casey's skull open to see what on earth was inside. A contemptuous smile curled Cameron's mouth. "Sophie, you signed a stand-in contract. Can't you stay in your lane? You actually think you're Sterling?" For half a year I'd ignored every barb and nasty trick. To me he was simply the client. I kept my voice level. "Sterling, you've been gone 2 weeks. If you don't come back tonight, next time Margaret will fetch you herself." "Is that a threat?" Derision glittered in his eyes. "If you want something, show a little sincerity." He flicked a glance at one of the princes of leisure beside him. The man grinned, seized a bottle of whiskey, and filled a tumbler to the rim. "Drink it dry and I'll go home with you." He said it as casually as if it were a glass of water. The room erupted in cheers. I tried reason. "Sorry, Sterling, the contract doesn't cover this." "What contract?" Smash. Cameron hurled the glass at me. I flinched, but flying shards still sliced my calf. His roar hit me before the pain did. "What damn contract? You're paid to play a part, stop acting so holier than thou. If it stings, call Casey and tell her to get back from Europe." I had no comeback. Every job has its catches. Until Casey terminated the agreement, I had 3 years to hold the seat for her. Besides, she was paying me an obscene amount. Casey and Cameron had grown up together, perfect pedigrees, perfect match. Wedding, heirs, empire building side by side, both families took it as fate. At the final hour Casey bolted with a penniless painter. A cliché straight out of A Penny Dreadful, except it happened in Eastbrook. The Sterlings swallowed the insult whole. The Vance family fumed in public while privately coddling their youngest. So every ounce of rage landed on the substitute bride. Wedding night, Cameron tore the contract in front of me and slapped me with the pieces. "A stand-in? Who gave you the right to marry into the Sterlings in Casey's place?" "Sterling, a stand-in preserves the marriage while leaving the employer's freedom intact." The agreement clearly states that within 3 years I temporarily occupy Sterling's position, the legal wife remains Vance. The explanation bounced off him unheard. He made my life hell firing the housekeepers, so I had to scrub the manor from top to bottom, then cook his 3 meals a day. The first time my dishes didn't suit him, he flipped the dining table, gravy splashed across the hardwood I had just polished. My pride lay in the mess with the broken china. Seeing me mop while tears dripped, he sneered, "Stone face finally cracks. Thought you couldn't cry. Can't take it? Did you imagine pretending to be Sterling was all champagne and photo ops?" If Casey had warned the Sterlings in advance, my life might have been easier, or maybe she foresaw this, which is why she tacked on a clause, during the contract, behave as a docile, sensible, obedient Sterling. 0 complaints against the family. 6 months and I had lost 10 pounds. When Margaret visited, I bustled around her. At breakfast she still picked me apart. Every word reminded me I didn't belong. I bit my tongue and counted the days left. Then she snapped, "Morgan, are you even listening? Forget it, just go fetch Andrew home." If Serena had married him, he'd never spend a single night out. The problem was, Casey didn't want the job. I drank the whiskey. Liquid fire scorched my stomach on the way down. On the drive back I clamped a hand over my mouth while Cameron watched in the rearview mirror, disgust written across his face. "Sophie, puke in my car and you're dead." A sudden break, the door yanked open, and he hauled me out. "If you're going to blow, do it outside." I tried to answer, couldn't, doubled over retching against a tree. The stench floated back. Cameron stepped away, climbed in, and slammed the door. I feared he'd strand me, turned to ask him to wait, but the road was already empty. He'd peeled off into the night, leaving me alone on the dark asphalt. 3 Margaret announced she would stay at the manor for a while. Cameron's tabloid headlines were hurting the share price. I was up at dawn making breakfast. After Margaret criticized my cooking, she started on my existence. "Morgan, you married in Serena's place, shoulder her responsibilities. A wife who can't control her husband is the worst kind of failure. Andrew's spoiled, but are you? You let him carouse every night." Now I understood half of Cameron arrogance. His family had handed it to him on a silver platter. He lolled at the table enjoying the show. Last night's half-hour wait on a freezing roadside, plus whiskey on an empty stomach, had left me feverish. I'd still cooked 3 different breakfasts only to face endless scolding. All I wanted was a bowl of plain congee for my growling stomach. Margaret droned on. Smack. I set my chopsticks down harder than intended. She stared, stunned, while I dredged up a weak smile. "Enjoy your breakfast." "Excuse me." I stood and walked upstairs, leaving her gaping at the dining table. Halfway up the stairs I could still hear Margaret's voice quivering with aftershock. The nerve of her. Does she think she can flip the script? A stand-in bride daring to give me attitude. Barely 5 minutes after I'd locked my bedroom door, Casey rang, scolding me for openly defying Margaret. I tried to reason with her. "Vance, the contract is crystal clear, stand-in bride is my job title. I'm not really married into the Sterling estate. I get paid to perform, and I shoulder only the duties listed in black and white. Anything a real daughter-in-law is expected to bear." Before I could finish, Casey's pitch spiked an octave. "Sophie, the contract says in plain English that you'll honor and respect the Sterling family on my behalf. That means swallowing the sweet and the sour." I had no comeback. In blue blood eyes, a stand-in has 0 dignity. Some even joke we're the modern version of chamber brides, dress us up like mistresses, treat us like skivvies. That crack had chilled me then, tonight it iced me over. Casey must have sensed the silence. She drilled the point home. "If you want the payout, reset your attitude. Where else will you pull down 3 million for 3 years? The line clicked dead. "I need the money. Someone's life depends on it." I exhaled through dinner while Margaret picked at every plate I'd set, sliding from my pedigree to my palate. Gone was the backbone I'd shown in the morning, I answered with quiet surrender. When I looked up, Cameron was watching, smirk swollen with ridicule. That night I lay scrolling Instagram. Casey had posted a new shot, a bowl of plain congee, caption reading, "Who knew exile could taste like home?" Compare and despair. She'd bolted for love, bought a plane ticket on impulse, left me holding the contract and the sterling grenade the Vance family still didn't know was live. Cleaning up after the sterling stings, but it's nothing next to the crater she's left the Vances. Must be costing them plenty, otherwise the sterlings would never let it slide. 4 days of Margaret's round-the-clock hazing shaved another circle off my waist. When I finally slipped out for coffee, Jade took one glance and hissed, "Morgan, you look like you could hoover a snowstorm." I sighed, accepting the roast. I'm not chatty by nature. I'd come because Jade just booked a new stand-in gig, high-profile Mark who happens to mirror the pop idol she crushed on at 16. Talk of him set fireworks loose in her eyes. "You're not falling for the client, are you?" Her face chilled mid-smile. "Not a chance. I memorized the code, no touching, no crushes, no soap opera twists. Rule 1 carved in stone. Stand and serve, never love." She pivoted. "How's your mom?" 2 weeks ago I used Casey's deposit to schedule the surgery. It went clean, now it's just rehab. Rehab means bills. If she'd only agreed sooner, but Dad's accident had emptied us out. Then her own diagnosis. She'd tried to sneak out of the ward so she wouldn't burden me, never thinking that without her I'd be anchorless. My throat tightened. If it weren't for your referral I'd probably be turning tricks for tuition. Jade exhaled. Your number wasn't up. We were grabbing our coats when a knife-sharp voice sliced in. Well, Sophie. Chloe, radiant and lethal, blocked the aisle. Same height, yet she looked down from some invisible balcony. I smiled at Jade. I'll text you. Chloe didn't budge. What's the rush? Guilty conscience? Enjoying a 5-figure tasting menu while squatting in Serena's throne? I kept my voice flat. Vance, if you dislike the arrangement, phone your friend and tell her to terminate my contract. Serena may be naive, I'm not. I know exactly what you leeches want. Flap your wings and hope somebody mistakes you for a swan. Watch your mouth, Jade snapped, rising. Chloe laughed behind manicured fingers. Oh, going to bite me? She raised her hand. I stepped in, the slap never landed. Cameron's fist closed around Chloe's wrist. He lounged there, mouth bent in a cold half-moon, gaze flicking to me. Chloe morphed instantly. Andrew, fancy meeting you here. He lifted an eyebrow. Andrew? Are we on a first-name basis? Her smile froze midair. She's a sterling stand-in, he said, tilting at me. Slap her and you slap us. Make up your mind, miss. Sterling, I didn't mean dash, beat it, he cut in, soft as dry ice. Jade tugged my sleeve. I'll scram too. Food ruined, I rode home in Cameron's car. Curiosity got the better of me. Sterling, why the rescue? Keep your ego in check. I just hate seeing the one person who can shut my mother up getting stepped on by a poodle. So much for détente. Rest easy, sir. Professional ethics included, no inappropriate feelings toward the client. He snorted. I dozed off. 20 minutes later Cameron's face filled my vision and I yelped, "Murder's still illegal." He froze mid-lift, exasperated. Realizing he'd only meant to carry me in, I clutched the seat. Clause 1, no physical contact. Color stormed across his cheeks. He slammed the door. Get over yourself, Sophie. Sun comes out and you think it's a spotlight. Exactly what I needed to hear. My heart hammered all the same. Back in the manor, I showered and tried to sleep. Cameron knocked, bottle of Barolo in hand, trademark smirk soft at the edges. Drink with me? Against contract policy. It's my birthday. Don't be a buzzkill. Happy birthday, sir. We settled at the island. He nursed the wine, eyes flitting to his phone waiting for a call I guessed would never come. Midnight struck, he flipped the screen face down and drained his glass. Maybe it was the slump of his shoulders, maybe the weeks of détente under Margaret's whip, but I heard myself murmur, "Happy birthday." He looked up, startled, then self-mocking. "Of course the first greeting comes from you." After that, when Margaret sharpened her knives, he parried a few blows. I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. One afternoon he asked casually, "Where are you spending the holidays?" I almost said, "Hospital with Mom," then pictured Casey's fury and swallowed the words. All I could do was murmur, a little dejected, "According to the contract, if any event or gala needs Sterling to appear over the holidays, I'll fill in." He crossed his arms, tone magnanimous. "Fine. Then you'll spend New Year's with me." Every hesitation in my chest vanished. To Cameron, those words were a gift, refusing them would be ingratitude. The Sterling estate knew the clause, so when I showed up at the reunion dinner in Casey's place, no one looked surprised. Or rather, no one cared. Cameron wasn't the only son, just the eldest grandson. There was a younger brother with real talent, and the whole family Margaret accepted had quietly shifted their loyalty to him. Halfway through the banquet, Cameron exploded, fought with the old man, and stormed out. I, the stand-in bride, was sent by Margaret to fetch him back. I glanced mournfully at the untouched bite on my chopsticks, drew a slow breath, and said, "All right. Remind yourself daily, recite it backwards if you must. When you need the money, you bow your head." I found him on a park bench, 3 or 4 empty beer cans at his feet. He was tilted back, face flushed, eyes full of scorn. "Here to deliver another message from Mommy, Sophie? Don't you ever get tired?" As if I'd volunteered for this. I hesitated, then sat on the opposite bench. "Sterling, everyone has strengths. Maybe yours aren't in business, maybe they're somewhere else." "Somewhere else? Didn't you hear them? I'm trash good for parties and nothing else." "That's because you've never bothered to try. Once people label you, you become the label, whether it fits or not." "So you're saying I'm better than Jinong?" Cameron stared straight at me, something like hope flickering in his phoenix-shaped eyes. "Did I mean that?" I nodded. "Fine, first get him home, then think." The red in his cheeks deepened. He looked left, right, then tugged at his shirt, voice low and rough. "You're annoying, but at least your taste isn't bad. Why so far away? Come here, let's toast." Clause 6 of the contract, a stand-in bride may not have physical contact with the employer. Get lost. 6 Maybe my comfort actually worked. The first thing Cameron did after sobering up was march into the office. The old money set buzzed that he must have seen a ghost. He'd changed overnight, no more clubs, no more models. He also started coming home. That was the part one hadn't ordered. Every morning he knocked on my door right on schedule. "Sophie, get up and make breakfast. What kind of wife sleeps this late?" I hated it. I grumbled, eyes ringed with shadow, yet still fried his eggs. After a while my body learned the rhythm. Before he even knocked, I was already in the kitchen. He charged off to work each dawn, fuming. He stormed back every dusk, still fuming. I finally understood why some couples eat in silence. That old man will be the death of me. His bias stretches clear across the Atlantic. Am I even his real kid? What's so great about Jinong? He just got a 2-year head start, big deal. Still, the smiles crept onto his face more often. It's not even hard. Genius here can master anything overnight. The luckiest thing Dad ever did was have a brilliant son like me. June arrived in a blink. Cameron's birthday guest list was a who's who of Eastbrook power, Chloe included. The Sterlings might despise her, but they would never snub the Vance family. She cornered me in the hallway, flame-red dress and matching arrogance. "Without Serena, a woman like you would never breathe the same air as this gala, would she?" I met her haughty stare, calm and flat. "Vance, please remember stand-in bride is a profession. I didn't beg for the job, your friend Sterling hired me." She laughed as though I'd told the best joke in Connecticut. "A profession? The only reason that job exists is to give gold diggers like you a chance to crash Eastbrook and marry up." I couldn't be bothered to argue. Sure, some contractors lose their heads and tangle hearts, creating spectacular disasters, but they're the minority. The prejudice, though, has always been there. That Jade woman is your friend, right? My face turned grave. What about her? Chloe's smile was all contempt. Besties, huh? She didn't tell you? She tried to seduce her employer, got caught. Sophie, careful, you're next. I stood frozen, remembering Jade gushing about that man. It didn't add up. She'd done this 4 years longer than I had. She knew better than anyone that a stand-in who falls in love ends up broken. Those families preach everlasting devotion until the novelty fades, the wrinkles show, and they're dragging you out the servant's entrance, sometimes straight into the real wife's claws. Old money protects marriage with ironclad interests, never affection. Jade's phone stayed off. I returned to the ballroom hollow-eyed. Cameron cut through the crowd toward me, scowling. Where were you? I sliced the cake and you vanished. I pressed my lips, then said, Sterling, something urgent came up, I have to leave. His face darkened. Right now? Sophie, it's my birthday. As my wife dashed Cameron. I cut him off, pulse hammering, and enunciated, Sterling, we are employer and employee. Your wife is Sterling Casey. I could almost hear his molars crack. His eyes swallowed me whole. Fine, Sophie, have it your way. The slice of cake hit the floor, he spun away, fury in every stride. 7 I watched Cameron disappear into the glittering crowd and shook my head. His kindness was arsenic to me. I walked out, dialing Jade over and over. Finally a text popped up, an address. She'd been in the hospital a week, the cuts on her face had begun to scab. She lay in bed, all former spark gone. Her hand felt brittle in mine. I wanted to spare you, she rasped. Still found out, huh? His wife did this? She nodded. Do you believe me? Or do you think I seduced him and got what I deserved? You're Jade. You know the rules. True, but mud sticks anyway. He said he loved me, and when he couldn't have me, he destroyed me. I frowned. We go to the police. Don't be naive, Morgan. Cops hate cases tangled with stand-in contracts. They won't cross Eastbrook for girls like us. A chill spread through me. Society demands a perfect victim, one blemish and you're suddenly the culprit. How much worse when your profession is professional bride? She patted my head. Stick to the rules, Morgan. The world may slander us, but our conscience can stay clean. I remembered Cameron's slip tonight and felt hollow. I'd kept my distance, honored every clause, yet some invisible tether still laced our fates together. Whatever was coming felt close enough to touch. I promised Jade I'd stay cold, no script would ever make me bleed. After that Cameron and I froze over. Not mutual frost his. I kept to my chores, he ignored my existence. His temper reverted overnight. He stopped coming home, his escapades trending on X daily. Margaret cornered me, voice like a lash. Morgan, was my warning wind? You sit here while Andrew scandalizes the family name? Look at the uproar online, do you even care? I couldn't summon surprise. My mind drifted to Casey. Her Instagram had been quiet for months. Even after the honeymoon phase, someone who used to post 3 Instagram stories a day should still manage one every 3 days. An entire month, 30 straight days, was unheard of. The evening Cameron left the office, I circled the topic, trying to sound casual while I asked about Casey. All I got was a slice of his trademark sneer. Worried she'll breeze back and boot you from the throne? He'd phrased it wrong, the seat had always belonged to Casey. But the jab was pure spite, and I refused to swallow the bait. As I turned to go, Cameron suddenly spoke again. Even if Serena never shows, the day that contract expires you'll crawl back to wherever you came from. I paused, then answered gently, understood. Halfway up the stairs I heard the crystal smash against the hardwood floor. Still, after that night Cameron reverted to type. He resumed his commute, stayed at headquarters later and later, and was often still gone when I fell asleep. That New Year he didn't consult me, simply drove to the Sterling Manor alone. I took the hint, bought a train ticket at dawn, and rode home through the dark. I spent the journey jitter-checking my phone. Midnight came and went without a call from Casey. Half relieved, half suspicious, I sensed the faint whistle of an approaching storm. Never doubt your sixth sense. Next morning my balance blinked an extra $2 million, the final installment. A text followed, "I'll have someone ship your things from the Sterling estate. Don't ever show your face here again." It was Casey. The real Sterling was back. I opened her Instagram. A post timestamped the night before, Cameron behind the wheel, streetlights streaking the windshield. Caption, "Thank heaven you're always waiting for me." The old money princes and princesses whose handshakes I'd collected at countless galas stampeded the comment bar. "Obs, Sterling's only ever had eyes for you. Welcome home." Much longer and certain strays would have tried for the crown. Time to return lost property to its rightful owner. I could picture their noses tilted sky-high without even seeing them. I blocked Cameron every handle, every burner, then deleted every Sterling contact. When the list was clean I exhaled until my lungs felt weightless. Back to our separate orbits at last. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at the mirror. They were only a dream, I told my reflection. The Sterlings, the Vances, those airs, that life, Cameron. I patted my skin dry and opened the bathroom door. Mom was on the sofa watching cable, stronger now though the doctors still forbade stress. I curled against her the way I had when I was little. She stroked my hair. "You've suffered these 2 years, and it's my fault. If only this body weren't such a burden." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Not suffer, Mom. Not one bit. I invented a future where my boss valued me so much she was sending me abroad. Visits would be scarce the next 2 years." She half believed it, guilt shading her eyes. She still thought she'd dragged me down. When the program ended she went to bed. From the courtyard came the crackle of neighborhood kids lighting sparklers. I walked downstairs to watch. Jade rang, FaceTiming from some sun-drenched coast, voice loose with vacation wine. "You wired the money back already? Sure you've enough left?" "I'm good." Jade had floated Mom's care home bills all year, the payoff covered them and left a cushion. "What now?" she asked. I told the truth, buy a little house here, open a corner cafe. Maybe mid-sentence I looked up. A tall silhouette leaned against the flickering street lamp. A single sparkler spat gold at his feet, and Cameron's face leapt out of the dim tight, bleak. Between the hiss of the fuse and the hush after, my ears rang. Jade's voice crackled, "Signals trash later," and the line died as the last ember faded. Instinct spun me around, but a man with mile-long legs is faster. 2 strides and he caught my wrist. "Sophie, we need to talk." "Impossible," I heard entreaty threaded through the words. I faced him, searching. No, not my imagination. The outer corners of his eyes drooped, wounded. 9 We ended up walking the dim county road. He babbled about the cross-country drive, how he'd bribed a PI for my address. Under a sodium street light I noticed the white cashmere coat hems freckled with mud from who knew whose soybean field. He rambled on, I knew stalling when I heard it. The tarred intersection waited ahead, his rental SUV parked like a black mirage. I cut in. "Sterling, this is as far as I escort you." He stayed planted, eyes drilling into me. "Sophie, did you ever care? When I was club hopping, drowning in champagne, skipping the office rotting, did it touch you at all?" So that juvenile revolt had been a flare for my attention. Classic playground logic, poke the girl until she looks. I inhaled until my ribs loosened. "Sterling, hear me clearly. Whether you turn into a headline-making lush or a model CEO, it's your life. I don't intervene, and it doesn't sway mine. Win or wreck yourself, the consequences belong to you, not me." The spark in his gaze guttered, ash gray. "You're heartless, Sophie." I caught the tremor beneath the accusation, almost a sob, yet I stayed eye still. "Sterling, you're the one who ordered me to remember my place. The same circle never let me forget, know your rung on the social ladder. I'd always understood an ocean lay between Cameron and me. I had no idea which tide had washed him here. These 2 years, do you expect me to believe you can wipe them clean? I can't, I said, and hope flared in his eyes until I finished. I can't erase you slamming the contract across my face that first night, scrubbing the Sterling Manor till dawn, Margaret's acid tongue, or you watching it all from the balcony, tossing fuel on the fire. Color drained from his cheeks. I met his stare. If you stood in my shoes, could you forget? Cameron, do your kind think saying I like you is charity, and my no is insolence? That history can simply be deleted? I didn't. Words tumbled, useless. I saw the upbringing Margaret bragged about. A wife serves, obeys, worships. To Cameron, rejection from an ordinary girl was a meteor strike unthinkable. Sterling, do you even know what love is? Or have you just fallen from such a height that bumping into me felt like pain for once, the first no you've ever heard? Speaking it drained the last dregs of anger. I felt air fill my chest again. He stood as if time had glitched. So that's the portrait you've painted of me, he whispered. I glanced at my watch. Late. I'd promised Casey, after this scorched earth honesty there would be no encore. I turned. If you divorced Serena tomorrow, I still wouldn't look back. Love that fits 2 women inside one heart isn't love, it's ego. You want the safety of your wife and the thrill of your stand-in, convenient, not committed. Goodbye, Sterling. His shoulders sagged like a marionette with severed strings. Let this be our last meeting. Don't come near me again. I wouldn't even grant him a polite wish for happiness. What right had he to that word? 10 after the drawbridge burned, he stayed away. Days slid into their old quiet rhythm. The house purchase closed, contractors banged around my future cafe as Mom and I debated espresso versus pour-over. Mid-sentence my phone lit with an unknown local number. Casey. She was here sitting in my hometown, waiting. The window glided down and she was already wearing her sunglasses. I remembered meeting her 2 years ago, exactly the same haughty tilt of the chin. What was pocket change in her eyes had been the life-saving surgery fee for my mother. Stand-in bride work was just a job, but she despised me and I knew it. If it hadn't been for true love, she would never have stooped to deal with someone like me. Sophie, you promised me. Have you forgotten? The second the words left her lips I realized that she knew Cameron had come to see me. I couldn't be bothered to explain. If Casey had bothered to track me down alone, it meant she couldn't fix whatever mess Cameron was in. So every ounce of blame would land on me. Without another syllable she slid a thick envelope across the seat. Cash and a plane ticket. For the next year, go anywhere, preferably somewhere you never come back from. I had no reason to refuse. I nodded. Sterling, you don't have to tell me. I know Cameron and I are impossible. The corner of her mouth curled. You're even more self-aware than I gave you credit for. I figured Sterling was the perfect example. Her face fell. You love that guy abroad so much you eloped and abandoned everything, yet you still couldn't stand life after you fell from heaven. What chance would the almighty Cameron have? Besides, people like you retreat the moment you love the wrong person, then hurry home to inherit and marry someone with the right last name. I'm different. A step forward is hell, a step back is an abyss. After Casey left I called Jade, asked which country she was in, and joked that I was about to throw myself on her mercy. She didn't hesitate, said yes immediately. Then I told my mother I was taking her on a trip to clear her head. She hesitated for a moment, then agreed. A few days later I bought the tickets, packed our bags, and headed to the airport with her. The moment we were airborne my phone buzzed. Cameron. Sophie, Casey found you, didn't she? I stayed silent. He blurted, frantic, where are you? Let me come to you, okay? Don't believe a word she said. Everything was my fault. I finally figured it out, just wait for me. A flight attendant's gentle reminder sounded. He was almost breaking. Sophie, what exactly am I to you? I remained quiet for a long time, listening to him beg. Sophie, say something, just one sentence please. I suddenly remembered the time in the restaurant when he stepped between Chloe's incoming slap and me, one of the rare kindnesses he had ever shown. Now I was paying it back. Sterling, you are, in my heart, the employer I most respect. I sincerely wish you and Sterling an endless marriage of perfect harmony. Sophie, you know that's not what I wanted to hear. Cameron's voice cracked, almost humbled. Tell me where you are. I'll come right now. I have to say this. I gazed at the endless night outside the cabin window and quietly cut him off. Sterling, goodbye. The line went dead. Dust to dust. 10. Cameron. The next time I heard anything about Sophie was a winter a full year later. Word was she'd met someone right for her and would marry after the new year. That same year Casey gave birth to a daughter. They named her Sterling Chow. I knew what that name meant. During that year Casey took the first step, tried to bridge the 2-year hole. The pampered princess who had never touched tap water learned to cook. But it had nothing to do with me. She had changed for another man, not for me. Casey's and my story stretched back to the cradle, no romance, just a match written in the society pages. So when she ran off to Europe with a starving artist and made me the laughingstock of every boardroom in Connecticut, what I felt first was bewilderment, then bruised pride. The night I first met Sophie, the stand-in bride trade was already an open secret in Eastbrook. Still, the label carried more stench than glamour. I assumed any girl who signed those contracts simply wanted a shortcut into a gated driveway. After I started dealing with Sophie, those notions peeled away. When did it begin? Was it the night she listened to my tirade with detached calm, as though I were a stranger? Was it the afternoon the entire family wrote me off as useless and she told me I wasn't that bad? Was it the dinner where she faced Margaret without flinching and left the old lioness speechless? Was it the first time she cooked, when I flipped the dining table and she finally cried? Or the first time I ever saw her standing close enough to touch, contract in hand, eyes clear as tap water? She wasn't a traffic-stopping beauty, even unsmiling her features stayed gentle, most days neither happy nor sad, simply obeying the clauses printed on a single page. Yet fate tilted my scale toward her anyway. I used to despise the stand-in bride racket, now I thanked it. Without that peculiar profession I would never have met her. I kept wishing those 3 years would drag, keep Sophie beside me just a little longer. But she left an entire year early. On the phone she didn't waver for a second. She wouldn't even let me finish my last sentence. After she hung up I lifted a hand and caught the hot tears on my palm. I turned around and every place we had shared sprang to life in front of me. I remembered every contemptuous word I had thrown at her. Now I finally saw the truth. When rich boys mocked contract brides it wasn't because they despised them, it was because they couldn't hold on. Those girls arrived with nothing and left the same way, taking not even a syllable of memory with them. Life rolled on. Everyone behaved as if Sophie had never existed. Casey cooks now, I don't complain. But I also don't ask why she didn't wait for me to come home, or tell her that a backflipping stray cat lives in the garden of the Sterling Manor. Because she is my wife, the bridge between the Sterlings and the Vances. How ridiculous. From childhood I knew there is no love in dynastic marriages, only interest rates that never lie, and now the maxim slapped me awake every morning. The longer time stretched, the number I became indistinguishable from every other Sterling man until the night Casey said across the dining table, voice trembling, "Andrew, I'm pregnant." For an instant Sophie's face floated in front of me, those beautiful eyes, our child would have inherited them. I came back to myself and answered calmly, "Then let's have the baby." Tears spilled down Casey's cheeks. "Thank you. The child will never know. You will be her father." What's the difference between knowing and not knowing? Even if one day the kid learns her biological father was a penniless painter and runs off to find him, she'll be back just like her mother. Once you've slept in a castle, how do you ever settle for a thatched hut? Suddenly it was crystal clear exactly why Sophie had really walked away. I tried to dial the number I still knew by heart, a robotic voice told me the line was dead. I tracked down Jade, begged until she gave me the new one. When the call connected and I heard her hello, my vision blurred. "Hello, who's calling?" It's dash Sterling, what do you need? The words I never finished. You guessed them, didn't you? A long, lightning-fast pause. Yes, Sterling. Why? Because I have never believed the fairy tale where the prince gives up the throne for Cinderella. If the day ever came when you had to abandon everything to come after me, would you really bear to lose it? Everything you own is on loan from the Sterling name, not truly in your hands. Even the devoted Sterling ultimately surrendered to reality. Sterling, I'm grateful for your feelings, grateful and nothing more. Sterling, I wish you every happiness. Goodbye. The line went dead. I stared at the window, cold drizzle now misted into the room. I suddenly recalled the day Sophie left Casey blocking the doorway, tears streaming. Cameron, if you walk out that door, the alliance between the Sterlings and the Van Sessens right here. I froze, a ringing in my ears. The airplane carrying Sophie was already gone. Sophie, how ruthless, how calm. I almost wish you had called me a coward. But you didn't. Because in your eyes I was simply Sterling and would only ever be Sterling. The end.